afternoon. My name is Pat O'Neill, and I am chair of the board's Policy Management Committee. Today is October 22nd, and we are here for the Policy Management Committee. I will ask my colleagues on the committee to introduce themselves, and I'll start with Dr. Daca.
Oh, good afternoon, Judy Daca, District 1.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Smondrowski, District 2.
We still, oh, there we go. We got rid of the music. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Pat O'Neill, and I am chair of the board's Policy Management Committee. Today is October 22nd, and we are here for the Policy Management Committee. I will ask my colleagues on the committee to introduce themselves. I'll start with Dr. Daca.
Oh, good afternoon, Judy Daca, District 1.
There you go. Nick, would you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Nick Asante, the student member of the board.
Thank you. So we are experiencing a little bit of technical difficulty, I think. So I'm going to jump in here and ask that we call to, give our call to order. The informational summary, did anybody have any questions or complaints or concerns?
I think we are now rid of the whatever was happening. Oops. Mr. Wojciechowski, I think we were.
Hey, could you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think we
Good afternoon. I'm Nick Asante.
Nope. It's still going on.
Thank you. So we are.
Okay, so item number 3, we're going to this the discussion of school gun violence and prevention. I will turn it over to Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So we are going to start with our presentation regarding the gun violence resolutions. And Mrs. O'Neill.
okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and read the statement from the Board of Education. The Board of Education believes that gun violence is a topic of great importance that has greatly affected our communities, our schools, and our students. Over the last several years, the board has seen a lot of advocacy around issues such as school shootings, violence prevention, and education of the safe storage of firearms. We have a timeline of discussion for background. Yeah. So as you can see there, on February 26th, the board adopted a resolution on safe and secure schools and communities. That was 2018. On June 24th, 2019, the board adopted Policy COA, Student Wellbeing and School Safety. December 3rd, 2019, the Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America presented public comments in a letter to the board. On December 4th of 2019, the Montgomery County Council of Parent-Teacher Associations adopted the resolution on gun violence prevention and school safety. And on December 11th of 2019, the Montgomery County Regional Student Government also adopted the gun violence prevention resolution. The Policy Management Committee was scheduled to address these resolutions and communications to the board earlier this year. Unfortunately, we suspended all committee meetings because of COVID-19, and our committees are just beginning to get back to conducting meetings again. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So as you can see, we've had a lot of feedback from our community. We've heard from many different organizations and groups have come together. We've invited each of these organizations to participate in today's committee meeting by submitting video statements to support and reinforce their messages. So let's start by hearing from Mr. Rob Wilcox, Chair of the MCCPTA School Climate and Safety Committee.
Hello, my name is Rob Wilcox, and I'm the chair of the MCCPTA School Climate and Safety Committee. I'm also the author of the MCCPTA Gun Safety Resolution that we passed last December. Thank you so much to Chair O'Neill and to the rest of the committee for inviting MCCPTA to submit testimony, and an even larger thanks for taking up the critical issue of gun violence prevention, ensuring that we are taking all the steps necessary to protect our students at home and at school. We truly appreciate the chance to expand on some of the points that we made in our resolution, as well as to add points based on current events. The fact of the matter is that the data we relied on in passing our resolution in December is as true today as it was then. The data on targeted attacks on schools is clear. The attacker is almost always a student, almost has always shown warning signs that concern those around them, and nearly always retrieve the firearm they used from the home. Knowing that data does point towards the path to intervention and points us towards the path for preventing these events from ever happening in the first place. We know that we have failed if a student shows up at school with a gun and is in the school building trying to harm their classmates, and that we have real and concrete opportunities to take steps to prevent that from ever happening. MCPS has taken a number of important steps to ensure that we have the evidence-based programs in place and the resources we need to ensure that we intervene and get students help before a tragedy occurs. But of course, there's more that we can do. One of the most critical issues that we can focus on as a school community is that every single parent who's part of our community is securely storing any firearm they have in their house. We know this is critical to preventing attacks on the schools, but we also know that it's critical to protecting students who are at home. During COVID-19 and the economic recession that we find ourselves in, we've seen through the evidence an increase in unintentional shootings. We've seen a dramatic increase in the risk of youth suicide. One recent CDC study said that 1/4 of young adults have contemplated suicide during the pandemic. There's incredible strain on our communities, both parents and students. But one of the things that we can do to keep ourselves safe is to ensure that any firearms in the home are securely stored and that students don't have access to them. We know that an incredible piece of the puzzle is the power of MCPS and the school officials and leaders to communicate that message to families. We know that that should be part of the handbook. We advocate that it also should be part of an official communication to parents about the need for secure gun storage, laying out the risk factors, both to the school community and to the students at home. This is an action we've seen taken across the country. Nearly 1 million students now are receiving official communications from their school districts on secure storage, including the second largest school district in America in Los Angeles. This is a step that MCPS can take. It's a place where MCPS can lead. And we would strongly advocate for adopting the recommendations we've made about how to communicate the need for secure storage to the parent community. A second piece of the puzzle is ensuring that the tools we've put in place for early identification and intervention are there and available no matter that students are no longer in the school building. Students need to be aware of the tip lines and other ways to send information in about their classmates who may be at risk to themselves or others. And once that information comes in, it needs to go through the evidence-based threat assessment program that the school has set up. Critical piece is ensuring that we're collecting data so that we're not having a negative effect on students and that we don't see negative outcomes. We also want to make sure that those tools are being used and are accessible today, just like they would be if students were in the school building. And lastly, as we are thinking about students returning to school, we need to be collecting data and information on any type of additional trauma we might be putting them through. We know the burden on our community and our students is heavy right now, and returning to school with active shooter drills that may do more to traumatize than prepare would not be in the best interest of the community. And so we would advocate the MCPS take a hard look at the drills that we have in place and the effect that they are having to ensure that as our students return to school, already being in a traumatized state, that we're not doing nothing to re-traumatize them. We so appreciate the opportunity to submit testimony to this committee. We so appreciate this committee taking up this critical issue, and we stand ready to work with this committee as it considers what else can be done to ensure that our students are safe at home and at school now and going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll cue up the video and hear from Ms. Helena Itensifu. I'm sure I messed up her last name, so I apologize. She's representing MCR.
Good afternoon to the honorable members of the Board of Education Policy Management Committee, Chair O'Neill, Ms. Daca, Ms. Mondrowski, and Mr. Asante. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a comment today. My name is Helena Itensifu, and I'm a senior at Richard Montgomery High School. Although my time at MCPS will be coming to a close soon, I want to make sure we have the best systems in place to protect all students in Montgomery County, current and future. I'm also one of the Legislative Affairs Directors for Montgomery County Regional SGA, or MCR for short. As you know, MCR represents the voices of students at all 26 high schools in Montgomery County. Last year, I had the opportunity to serve as the MCCPTA liaison for MCR, where I learned about MCCPTA's gun violence prevention and school safety resolution. I presented an MCR counterpart to this resolution at the December 2019 Executive Board meeting, where it passed. The issue of gun violence prevention is especially close to many students in my generation, particularly since the Parkland shooting. Taking place my freshman year, I remember being glued to the TV screen and feeling absolutely devastated about what had happened. These were kids, just like me, looking to get an education and losing their lives as a result. The Parkland shooting sparked persistent student demonstrations and led to the creation of organizations that still work toward the issue today. As students, before the pandemic, we went to school each day knowing the possibility of something like this happening at our very own schools. Students in Montgomery County already have enough to worry about, and their safety shouldn't be in jeopardy for them to receive an education, which is why I presented this resolution to MCR. With the unpredictability of gun violence, this is an issue we must be proactive on, not reactive. So although we are not in school physically so far this year, the urgency and pertinence of this issue is undiminished. The importance of secure storage in the home is well documented, and it's an ever-growing concern with the pandemic leaving many at home for the entire day each day. As suggested in both the MCCPTA and MCR resolutions, a message or digital newsletter distributed by MCPS could help reinforce the message of safe storage to many families here in Montgomery County. MCR recognizes that active shooter drills are used to help address this problem, but they also often leave students even more terrified and traumatized, so it's crucial to ensure they do more good than harm. Mental health professionals are essential to the process of developing trauma-informed practices and making sure students' well-being is always the first priority. Both resolutions also push for the implementation of county-wide threat assessment programs and explicitly state that these programs should be evaluated for their impact on students of color and students with disabilities. Again, with the current conversation surrounding race in schools, we want to ensure that these programs do not have a disproportionate impact on students of color and should be monitored as such. Staffing by mental health professionals will again be essential to these threat assessment programs to evaluate student risk while minimizing the risk of prejudice. Members of the Policy Management Committee, thank you again for the opportunity to provide a comment today. MCR still stands completely behind the resolution presented, as well as MCCPTA's resolution, and we hope that the Board of Education will work to implement these provisions. Thank you.
And thank you very much. So I do believe that Ms. O'Neill is back up and ready, and she will take over the meeting after we watch this last video from Ms. Jennifer Stein, School Safety Campaign Lead for Moms Demand Action.
Policy Committee Chair O'Neill and committee members Daka, Smondrowski, and Asante, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony today as you consider twin resolutions to prevent gun violence in our schools. I'm Jennifer Stein, School Safety Campaign Lead for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America's Maryland chapter. I'm also a Montgomery County resident and the mother of 2 recent MCPS graduates. Moms Demand Action unequivocally endorses the identical resolutions put forth by the MCCPTA and MCR-SGA. Last December, I informed the board about a February 2019 school safety report co-authored by Everytown for Gun Safety, the NEA, and the AFT. The resolutions before the board are largely based on the findings and recommendations of this report. It's been 10 months since I appeared before the board, and much has changed, including the new reality of a global pandemic. Additional research and events since then have only reinforced our position that the MCCPTA MCR resolution and its provisions are necessary for the safety of our students and the community at large. First, since the pandemic, our students have been spending more time than ever at home. Gun sales have spiked in Montgomery County and across the country. Incidents of domestic violence have increased and people are isolated, depressed, and anxious. Between July 1 and August 15 alone, nearly 400 Montgomery County residents went to a hospital emergency room due to self-injury or suicidal thoughts. School shootings and the risk of shootings at school are practically non-existent, solely due to the fact that school buildings have been closed since last March. That doesn't mean, however, that there isn't a serious risk of harm to our students and their families as they take classes remotely from home. In fact, the combination of more guns in the home, increased mental health issues, and minors who are spending more time at home taking classes with access to firearms creates an apt environment for both unintentional and intentional shootings to take place. Therefore, although the school buildings are shuttered at the moment, the board should not wait to take action. The first 3 provisions in MCCPTA MCR's resolution regarding notification to parents of their legal obligation to secure firearms and the importance of safe storage will help keep students and their families safer during school closures and will help prevent school shootings once MCPS reopens schools. The second largest school district in the country, the LA Unified School District, has taken action along the lines of what we propose, requiring that information on secure storage be sent to the families of 700,000 students in that school system, and requiring a signature acknowledging awareness of safe gun storage responsibilities. We should do this in Montgomery County Public Schools as well. We appreciate that the board has already approved distribution of postcards in elementary schools informing parents about safe storage practices as part of a Moms Demand Action initiative known as Be Smart. This was a good first step, but unfortunately, the pandemic made it impossible to distribute such postcards before schools shuttered in March. The postcards are an effective way to communicate, but not a substitute for school district action. We therefore urge that the board consider as one of multiple means for notification, electronic postcards that are distributed to all MCPS families in elementary, middle, and high schools as part of a broader email notification campaign. Robocalls are another method, and we hope that the board would consider multiple means for transmission of this life-saving information. Second, it is clear that evidence-based threat assessment plans are crucial, not only because they help prevent school shootings through early intervention, but also because when carried out with adequate mental health professionals, they tend not to disproportionately impact students of color and can curb the school to prison pipeline. Although we understand that SROs are currently mandated by state law, we believe that a trauma-informed approach to our students' mental health and well-being requires more mental health professionals, not more law enforcement. Evidence-based threat assessment plans must be a priority for our schools, and we maintain the board and MCPS should not be over-reliant on SROs who are not trained mental health professionals, but rather are police officers stationed in our schools. We therefore support the provisions in the resolution that ensure the proper implementation of threat assessment plans in our schools. Finally, just last month, Everytown and Georgia Tech released a study that looked at the immediate and long-term impact of active shooter drills on the health and well-being of students, teachers, and parents. The results were sobering. The research showed that active shooter drills in schools are associated with increases in depression, stress, and anxiety, and physiological health problems, including in children from as young as 5 years old up to high schoolers, their parents, and teachers. While we understand that active assailant drills are currently mandated by state law, we maintain that special care and consideration must go into how these drills are planned and carried out based on the risk of harm to our students. There must also be greater transparency and advance notice to parents about the content, tone, and timing of these drills. Thus, we support the provision in the resolution that the board and superintendent review the procedures, protocols, and effects of state-mandated active shooter drills. Members of the Policy Committee, thank you again for this opportunity. And on behalf of the Montgomery County Local Group of Moms Demand Action, I respectfully request that you pass as soon as possible the resolution proposed by the MCCPTA and MCR-SGA. Thank you.
Thank you. These have been very important conversations. Rebecca, can you hear me?
I can barely hear you.
Okay, I will try to move closer. I'm having technical issues.
Yes.
I want to thank the three organizations for bringing forward these very important issues. We will walk through the various recommendations from MCCPTA, MCR, and Moms Demand Action. But rest assured, even though we have been closed due to COVID, the staff has been working diligently on these concerns. Health and safety are the number one priority for the Board of Education and the staff. We know that even though we are in the world of COVID and we are all virtual, we will be returning back to our buildings. And when we do, we know that we must provide safe and secure learning situations for our students. Students should only have to worry about academics, about how they're performing on a test, how their school will, whether they will win or lose a football game. No student should ever have the barrier to learning of fear of gun violence in the schools. So today, as we go through these important resolutions from the organizations and have an update from staff about where we are and then the next steps. I'm going to introduce the first resolution from the organizations. The board directs the superintendent and staff to update the student handbook to include information about parents' legal obligation related to gun safety. A person may not store or leave a loaded firearm in a location where the person knew or should have known that an unsupervised child would gain access to the firearm. This is addressed in Maryland Code, Criminal Law, Section 4-104. In December of 2018, the co-founders of the local Montgomery County chapter of the Brady Campaign Against Gun Violence, both of whom are Winston Churchill alumni parents, came and presented testimony about public comment at the Board of Education meeting and shared a very important PSA about gun violence and prevention. And I would ask the TV crew to cue up that video.
I surrender.
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Can I play with it?
No, absolutely not. It's not a toy. You know that.
Do I? I bet it looks like one.
Yeah, well, it's not. Anyway, I need it to protect you, your sister and mom.
From what?
From bad guys, like on TV.
But what about the 8 kids who get shot every day by mistake? Their daddies probably thought they were safe too.
Where'd you hear that?
TV.
Yeah, well, maybe we don't believe everything we hear on TV.
Where do you keep it?
It's hidden.
I bet it's on the top shelf of the closet, under your sweatshirts. Is it loaded?
It's not. I keep the bullets.
In the boots with the red laces, and the chest beside the bed. I haven't found them yet, but I'm sure I can. You always told me to be curious. Remember when I found my Christmas gift? I'm a good climber, you know.
No, that's not what I meant. Look, I need to be ready if someone breaks in.
What about when it's just me and Mom? You taught me to be brave. I could use the gun to protect her.
No, Justin, I promise. I'll teach you how to handle a gun when you're old enough.
And what if I don't make it to old enough? I could get bullied and decide it's too much for me. It would be so easy with our gun.
Our gun? No, buddy. My gun.
But it is our gun. In our home. Happens all the time.
I'll make sure that doesn't happen. I'm always here for you.
But Dad, you're not always here.
Today, with seasonal temperatures, we should reach our normal high of about 82 degrees by this afternoon. Clear skies tonight with a low near 70. Increasing cloudiness.
This video is a prime example of opportunities for learning within our community. And it is one example of steps that could be taken and are being taken. I would like to point out that MCPS uses videos directly targeted to parents, guardians to address gun safety in the home. Signs of Suicide Prevention Program for parents, guardians that address gun safety, and Waymaking video series for parents, guardians on home safety in the virtual environment, which also addressed appropriate storage of firearms. MCCPTA took part in the development of the Waymaking episode. All we do, we can do more, and we will continue to do more. And now I will ask that staff walk through the other resolutions from the three organizations, and then at the end we will have a board discussion.
Good afternoon, Mrs. O'Neill and members of the committee. We've had a little technical difficulty on our end as well. I am Stephanie Williams. I am inserting myself into Mrs. Davis's Zoom account, so please don't be confused by the name. I'm Stephanie Williams, Associate General Counsel in the Office of the General Counsel, and I am going to introduce to you our staff who will be sharing feedback on the resolutions that have been presented. And we will pick up where you left off on resolution number 2. And I'm going to be introducing Dr. Christina Connolly, Director of Psychological Services, and Mr. Edward Clark, who is our Chief Safety Officer.
Good afternoon, everybody. So if you can pull back up resolution number 2. All right, so resolution 2 says the board directs the superintendent to create an appropriate letter in all languages used by MCPS to parents, guardians, and all staff explaining the importance of secure gun storage and the specific legal obligation to protect minors from accessing irresponsibly stored guns. This letter should be posted online, included in an annual registration materials at each school site, and require a parent guardian signature acknowledging awareness of secure gun storage responsibilities. So go to the next slide. And so with this part of resolution, in terms of looking at MCPS activities to date, MCPS has taken the approach of looking at communication directly targeted at parents and guardians in terms of looking at some of the training videos. And that when we look at what Ms. O'Neill discussed before in terms of waymaking, we just recently created a video and talking about home safety in the virtual environment, and part of that video, which was done in collaboration with MCCPTA and Mr. Ed Clark, was to talk about the safe storage of those weapons. And that video is going to be promoted at our Mental Health Awareness Week, which starts next week on Monday. And that video will be highlighted during the week. It'll also be included as part of the waymaking playlist that is on for MCPS waymaking playlist that's a part of the MCPS TV YouTube channel. Please, everybody, go and subscribe. And also, we work to include information about gun violence in the newly developed parent resources and videos that will be part of the Signs of Suicide Prevention Program. A memo on that just went out to principals today, and they will start implementing the Signs of Suicide program in November of this year. And staff will start training on that program next week. So with that, and in those parent resources, which have been developed in all languages and is in the process of also being recorded in all languages, this will allow parents to gain additional information about gun safety, as it is a part of the Signs of Suicide Prevention program that is available in all of our secondary schools. If you want to go to the next slide. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ed Clark, our Chief Safety Officer.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Ed Clark, and prior to myself joining MCPS in 2008, I served as the Executive Director for the Maryland Center for School Safety from 2013 to 2018. During that time, the state passed comprehensive and sweeping school safety legislation known as the Maryland Safe to Learn Act, which was signed into law by Governor Hogan. So I'd like to read the resolution number 3 and then discuss some of the activities that we have done to date. The board and the superintendent continue to work with local law enforcement agencies, health agencies, and nonprofit organizations to inform district parents of their obligations to safely and securely secure their firearms. Next slide, please. And these are just some of the activities that we have completed to date. And the board really adopted an outstanding policy in COA, student well-being and school safety. And that board policy directs all MCPS employees to promote school safety by creating a safe and supportive and inclusive school climate for all students. In addition, the board policy directs that we interact with our mental health, law enforcement, public safety, and community stakeholders as to school safety. And I would just like to address some of the opportunities that I've had to discuss school safety at various opportunities as the Chief Safety Officer. I've spoken on school safety issues, including weapons in our schools, the proper storage of firearms in our homes, at various school community meetings, principal meetings, and MCCPTA meetings. I've also met with representatives of the Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, as well as the MCCPTA Delegates Assembly meeting, where we discuss school safety issues, emergency preparedness drills, and gun safety in our homes. These meetings were very important to all parties as we had the opportunity to discuss key school safety issues, including behavioral threat assessment. Next slide, please. So those are some of the activities that we have done. The board and the superintendent ensure that the proper implementation of evidence-based threat assessment programs and anonymous reporting systems throughout the county maintain appropriate staffing levels, including sufficient mental health professionals, to identify students who may be in crises, evaluate those risks, and implement appropriate interventions. If we could go to the next slide, please, there. And what I'd like to just cover in this particular slide is, again, in my prior role, we had the opportunity and we were joined by Dr. Conley, as well as Sergeant Dan Helton of Montgomery County Police Department. Sergeant Helton oversees the SRO program. They were part of a statewide work group that developed a comprehensive Maryland policy on behavioral threat assessment. That also included in those guidelines and policy were opportunities for anonymous reporting to students who may be in a crisis there. So again, the government or the state of Maryland responded to the anonymous reporting of safety concerns by adopting the Safe Schools Maryland tip line. And that creates an opportunity for students, staff, parents, community members to report any behaviors of concern, including weapons on school campuses or students who may be in possession of weapons there. Next slide. I think we go to Dr. Conley next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Clark. And as directed by COA, Student Wellbeing and School Safety, MCPS does have a mental health coordinator that does actively engage with our mental health agencies throughout the county and making sure in terms of looking at our collaboration with them to support our students, staff, and family as well. And with that, as part of the regulation that came forward due to what was presented within COA, the board policy, it directed us to then develop COA-RA, which is our regulation for behavior threat assessment. And we do have a behavior threat assessment process that is engaged within all of our schools in MCPS. This is pre-K through 12. And that all schools are directed to develop a behavior threat assessment team, which is required as per the Maryland Safe to Learn Act and also the Maryland Model Policy for Behavior Threat Assessment, that an administrator in the school, a mental health professional, and when it goes to the full team, depending on where the child is on the pathway of violence, then it is directed to include a law enforcement officer, which may be the school resource officer or SRO. And that the regulation then assists us in teaching schools how to identify students who are in crisis, who are in need of interventions and supports in order to make sure that they do not continue on the pathway of violence. And the pathway of violence is a multi-step process that follows along with what the Maryland Model Policy says in terms of behavior threat assessment levels, looking at something that's low, moderate, high, or imminent. And as we're going through this process, and we provide training on this, every month. I actually just completed a training on it Monday and Tuesday. And so we have trained almost 1,000 staff members in the behavior threat assessment process. We have been conducting this training since May of 2018. And with that, we have collaborated with the Equity Unit in terms of us providing supports and especially in looking at bias. So, and I think, and as we're going through this, and I think I'm probably getting ahead of myself. So if you want to go to the next slide. And so Resolution 5 says the board and the superintendent will evaluate whether the threat assessment program is having the intended effect and monitor any disproportionate impact to students of color or students with disabilities. I'm going to go to the next slide. And so board action created policy ACA, which looks at non-discrimination, equity, and cultural proficiency, and making sure that equity does go beyond meeting the letter of the law, and that we are taking proactive steps to identify and redress issues of implicit bias, structural and institutional barriers that too often has resulted in identifiable groups of students and staff being unjustifiably or disproportionately excluded from or underrepresented in key educational program areas and sectors of the workforce, as well over identified in student disciplinary actions, and that we understand that continued vigilance is necessary. And if you go to the next slide, that bias is also explicitly addressed in Policy COA for staff participating in the behavior threat assessment process, and that in our training that we did work with the Equity Unit to ensure that we have conversations with those members of the team who are conducting the behavior threat assessments on areas of implicit bias, looking at triggers and especially cultural triggers that may impact the decision-making process in behavior threat assessment. I cannot describe enough just how much we go over. This is a 2-day training, and it is infused throughout that training when talking around bias and how it potentially can impact the system. And that within COA-RA, the regulation, it also has an additional step where all cases must be reviewed by the Chief Safety Officer and the Director of Psychological Services, which is Ed Clark, and myself, before it can move forward to the full team. So as they're going through triage, they're collecting their data in terms of what's going on with the student, why did the student make the threat, what is all the background information, potential targets, so forth. It must come forward and then be approved by Ed Clark and myself before it can go to the full team. And the full team then includes law enforcement. So in a sense, it's an additional step of trying to make sure that bias is not included in the process to then for a case to move forward to the full behavior threat assessment team in terms of looking at interventions and supports for students. And then also we do have a behavior threat assessment go to the next slide. And I said, I always get ahead of myself. And so as we're going through here, we just want to make sure, again, as I said through here, that it is a part of it. And as we're going through here, I just want to also make mention that our behavior threat assessment work group, which is comprised of representatives from each of the unions, district office, school-based teams, and also representatives, Sergeant Dan Helton is on there as well as other community members too, that looks at and we talk about issues in our cases that are coming up, what are some of the concerns, and then they provide guidance to the district in terms of what are things that need to change, what are issues regarding to the regulation, potential issues that may need to come back to the board in terms of policy, what are some procedural things that we need to look at in terms of looking at our training for our teams, for our buildings, and they provide additional input to try to ensure that we continue to look at these areas of equity because we do not want to continue concerns around the school to prison pipeline. All right, next slide, I'm turning it back over to Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Dr. Conley. Resolution number 6. The board and the superintendent direct schools to provide information to students, parents, guardians, and all staff about the use of anonymous reporting systems and other preventative resources, specifically in situations involving firearms. Next slide. And again, in the board's policy here, it's very clear that the board has directed MCPS to publicize those anonymous reporting opportunities and information. And I'd just like to give you a little bit of background about how we process those tips that come through the Maryland State Tip Line. Students can report at any time, parents, community members, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, any concerns that they have about school safety or about mental health of other students who might be experiencing crisis in the moment. And we process those tips round the clock. Mike Harding, our school safety supervisor, and Dr. Conley and myself were immediately copied on those tips. They come from the Maryland Emergency Management Agency. That's where the central hub is. They're processed immediately. We will evaluate those tips in the event it is a serious life-threatening emergency where there may be a potential suicide. We're going to immediately reach out to our law enforcement partners to convey the information that we have so they can go out and make that welfare check to make sure all parties are safe and not in harm's way there. Then if we get a different type of tips that might be school-based level, we'll share that information with our school administrators for appropriate action there. But again, the key is how we get these tips, how we process them. We'll call Dr. Conley or Dr. Rathbone at all hours of the evening, early morning hours, get their input, and make the best decisions we can to intervene in a critical life-threatening emergency there. Next slide. Resolution number 7. The board and the superintendent ensure that schools are aware of and that MCPS counselors and mental health professionals are trained on Maryland's extreme risk protection order under the Maryland Code of Public Safety, Section 5601, to temporarily remove access to firearms from a student at risk to themselves or others and instructed in the appropriate circumstances when it should be used. Next slide, please. Dr. Conley, in her training, she does an outstanding job of referencing the ERPO, what those requirements are. Also, as Dr. Conley said, we have a SRO at the appropriate time sitting on the behavioral threat assessment team, or Sergeant Helton may fill in, or another officer there. So when we come upon these critical, imminent life-threatening emergencies, we can reach out to those law enforcement partners on the team, provide them with what they have so they can determine if it's an appropriate use of the ERPO. They also have the legal authority, if it's life-threatening, imminent danger to an individual or others, they can then engage in emergency mental health evaluation of those individuals. So that is very well covered in Dr. Conley's training there in behavioral threat assessment there. Next slide, please. Resolution number 8, bear with me, please. This is a long resolution. The board and superintendent review the procedures, protocols, and providers and effects of the state mandated active shooter drill. At a minimum, the board and the superintendent will ensure that drills never involve simulations, drills are never unannounced, sufficient information notification provided to parents about the tone, content, and dates of any drills for students. Drill content is trauma-informed, created by a multidisciplinary team designed to be age-appropriate in tone and content, and incorporates feedback from students. Active drills are coupled with restorative and trauma-informed approaches to directly address student well-being and standard practice, and data is tracked about the efficacy and effects of the drills. Next slide, please. You know, all public school districts in the state of Maryland are required to practice 6 emergency preparedness drills directed by the Maryland State Department of Education. Those drills are lockdown, evacuation, reverse evacuation, shelter in place, severe weather, and drop, cover, and hold drills. And all of those are to be practiced throughout the school year. In response to the Maryland Safe to Learn Act, there was a recommendation that all school districts in the state of Maryland develop active assailant protocols and drills. Our school district during the 2018-2019 school year developed protocols for lockdown with options. Lockdown with options is a response to an active assailant and provides students and staff with options to include avoiding, denying, and defending and implementing various response actions. These protocols were developed with the input of the Montgomery County Police Department Tactical Commander, Lieutenant Brian Dillman, who is a national expert, Montgomery County government, and the police used these same response protocols of avoid, deny, and defend. That's why we sort of wanted to parallel that in terms of our approach to an active assailant drill and protocols. Input on this new response action and drill was obtained from both our elementary school principals and secondary principals and our mental health experts, including Dr. Conley and other stakeholders. The lockdown drill with options were developed in an age-appropriate and trauma-informed manner with a secondary version and an elementary school version. All K through 12 staff have been trained on the lockdown with options response actions with the assistance of Lieutenant Dillman and his teams. Secondary students were also trained by way of classroom discussions with teachers who were trained in the protocols of lockdown with options. That training consisted of a classroom discussion as to involving 6 specific emergency preparedness scenarios. And it gave the opportunities for students to determine what would be the most appropriate response action, either avoiding, denying, or defending. And the goal is here, if we can avoid and escape, that's what we want to do in a lockdown situation. Parents have been notified or were notified of those new response actions of lockdown with options. Prior to conducting any of this training, principals explained to staff and students the process and how the interactive scenarios trainings would occur. And there was also ample time to answer questions. No actual lockdown with option drills were conducted during that school year, as it was just that classroom opportunity to have those discussions. Elementary school students were not trained as we continued to work with Dr. Conley, our elementary school's principals, to really refine that version for elementary school students. And we know that that version is going to be much, much different because of the young age of those students there. So we will continue to work on those opportunities this school year prior to returning to our learning environment there. This year, we will continue to work with our principals and Dr. Conley to determine the best way to comply with the 6 required Maryland emergency preparedness drills when we do come back to an in-school learning environment. We certainly want to do that in an appropriate way, recognizing that we've all been under a lot of stress. We certainly don't want to increase any undue stress or anxiety when we come back. So this will be an ongoing opportunity and process so we can be prepared when we do return to school in the event of a critical emergency there. Let's see here. Next slide. And again, one thing I just want to state, we do not engage in an active assailant drill or a lockdown drill in a full-scale way. We do not replicate that there's an armed intruder in the building. We do not do that, nor will we do that, because that certainly raises too much trauma and anxiety. So we will not engage in that type of practice, where some other schools have done that, but it's been very, very costly to the psychological impact to students and staff and parents there. I think the next slide, and I think that goes to Dr. Conley, I believe.
Yes, and thank you, Ed. And as he said, with the elementary active assailant drill that we're working on for the students, and again, I just want to reiterate that when I wrote that in collaboration with the principals and the work group that was looking into that, we made sure that it was written with a trauma-informed lens, and then I took it to experts within the National Association of School Psychologists for them to review as well. And so to get feedback on that, because again, we truly do want to make sure that we are doing this in an age-appropriate developmental fashion and not in a way that will traumatize students. When you talk about next steps, and so your videos that are coming out, as I shared before, for the Signs of Suicide Prevention Program, we do understand that it's at the secondary level, that the students will participate in that program, but because there isn't currently an elementary version of the Signs of Suicide Prevention Program, that we do have available the parent training videos that I spoke to before. They will be offered during the MCPS Mental Health Awareness Week, which starts next week, which is an all virtual event, which will be hosted at www.mcpsmentalhealth.org. And so those training videos will be available for all families on that website, so that whether their children attend at the elementary school or the secondary school, they will be able to watch those videos. And again, those videos do include information about gun safety, because we do understand that firearm use is the #1 method for individuals who die by suicide. And so, in additional, the waymaking episodes, all the waymaking episodes will also be available and will be represented again to our families during the Mental Health Awareness Week, and will be included on that website. If you want to go to the next slide. And so again, the Behavior Threat Assessment Workgroup will continue to look at the training needs that are available for our parents, staff, and students. And that group is there to meet those system-wide concerns and address, any of those changes that are needed in that process. And that group does meet monthly. And again, it does have representatives from a variety of stakeholders to provide information and to evaluate how the behavior threat assessment process is going. That process did officially start September of 2019 when the regulation was approved, but we did start training for our staff starting in May of 2018. Next slide. And as we were saying, we do, again, very much so understand the need for our elementary lockdown drills that looks at how to avoid, deny, defend, which again has not been implemented yet. But as Ed said, it does take a very different form. It doesn't even use the words avoid, deny, defend. It is broken down into a developmentally appropriate fashion with much simpler words, doesn't have the jargon of the avoid, deny, defend, to make sure that our elementary school students know what it is that they're supposed to do. And one of the biggest pieces of it is that they are to follow the instruction of the teacher or other adults in the building that direct them in terms of what are they supposed to do. And again, as I shared, this was reviewed by the National Association of School Psychologists, because we truly are committed to ensuring that this training is done with a trauma-informed lens and does not potentially traumatize our students. Next slide. And with our tip line, we want to make sure that we are continuing to promote our anonymous tip line systems, because both the Maryland Safe Schools and our Montgomery County hotlines, we frequently promote these tip lines in a number of ways. Last year, they were included in all of the bookmarks that went out pre-K through 12, which I believe was the recommendation of Ms. Madra. And so we did develop those bookmarks. We passed them out to all of our students. They received one on information for talking with the counselor, one on information and talking with the psychologist. And on the back of it, it had the information of how to use the anonymous tip line system. There are also posters for the Maryland Safe Schools tip line that are throughout all of the buildings within the schools. And we do promote them. We talked about them at the Let's Talk Respect Town Hall that recently occurred. It is also promoted in many of our materials for MCPS Mental Health Awareness Week. We also talk about those resources within our waymaking videos. We actually had Every Mind come and speak to, and they talked about the hotline that they monitored, which is the Montgomery County hotline that is have support 24/7 and also texting support available until midnight. And then we also included information about the Maryland Safe Schools tip line within several of the waymaking videos as well. Next slide. And so I'm going to turn this back over to Ed.
Thank you, Dr. Conley. As you've heard from Dr. Conley, we've done a very good job here within MCPS and training in implicit bias. But I also wanted to share with you there have been other opportunities for school resource officers across the state of Maryland, all school-based security employees under the Maryland Safe to Learn Act. A 40-hour specialized curriculum was developed for all SROs and school-based security staff. In that curriculum, there was a very, very strong focus on implicit bias and disability awareness, with special attention to racial and ethnic disparities, as well as maintaining a positive school climate, constructive interaction with students, and de-escalation. All of our school resource officers in Montgomery County, all of our school-based security staff, with the exception of new hires, have received this mandated 40-hour curriculum. The Maryland Center for School Safety also offers enhanced and additional training, and they also have a strong focus on training all practitioners in implicit bias.
Thank you, Ed.
The next slide, or Dr. Conley.
Oh, and we want to make sure we reiterate that the behavior threat assessment team training, it does cover topics around implicit bias, disability awareness, and concerns around disparities when it comes to identification, especially of students of color, especially Black and Hispanic male students within our school. And we talk about, a lot of examples that have come forward that have issues of bias, and we talk about those throughout the training, and then trying to make sure that the teams are looking at things through, the culturally sensitive lens and not from the perspective of looking at potential profiles of students, looking at cultural triggers, but looking explicitly at the behaviors that they indicate. And in looking at the training that is for the SRO offers, I can attest, I helped to write the SRO training, and those topics are definitely covered. I even wrote the training for them on trauma-informed practices and behavior threat assessment. So everyone from the state is receiving pieces of the training that we have developed here in Montgomery County. And making sure that our SROs have additional support and information in our model that follows our board policy and regulation on behavior threat assessment. So next slide. And so next, I want to turn it back over to Ms. O'Neill for discussion.
Yes, Dr. Conley and Mr. Clark, thank you so much for joining us and participating and providing an update to the requests included in the resolutions. And as I turn it over to my colleagues on the committee, I would ask that we capture the items under each request in a letter form so that we can send it back to the organizations. The PowerPoint is posted, as is our policy and our regulation, our policy ACA and policy COA and COA-RA are posted under board docs today. But I would like to officially request that the board send a letter to the organizations capturing the progress that we've made in each of these areas. And absolutely, school safety requires vigilance, constant, as in MCPS, the mantra of continuous improvement. I appreciate everyone's efforts. I would like to start with Ms. Mondrowski, since Dr. Conley mentioned about the bookmarks and her wanting to make sure the hotline numbers were available. So Ms. Mondrowski, I will ask you, do you have any questions?
I do. Well, I first want to thank you all for the presentation and tell you how much I appreciate you taking the suggestion and getting the word out there as much as we can. There's no thing that's too small to be able to do to help make sure people have the information, know where the resources are, and are able to get help if they need it. I also wanted to comment on our partnerships with the police department. I know I had a meeting, I think a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, with the chief operating officer, Dr. Zuckerman, and some members of the police department and SRO program, some of our SROs, where they really got together and talked about continuing the training through so that we are all on the same page in terms of emergency situations like this. So Mr. Clark, I want to say thank you for your close relationship with them and the work that they're doing to support our students and our schools as well. In the letter, I think that's a great idea, Ms. O'Neill. The one thing I would suggest is that maybe we could include a link to this committee meeting so that anybody, I'm assuming if the letter also goes out electronically, people can come back and watch this so that they can really get the full presentation like we did. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And I also want to thank our advocates for refreshing us on this and reminding us that we need to continually have these conversations. So thank you.
Okay, Dr. Daka.
I really appreciate this presentation. You gave us a lot of material, and I want to thank the student and the parent and the MCCPTA persons for their videos. They were really right on target. I do have some questions, though. My slides are different in numbers than yours, but Resolution 5, mental health professionals. We're talking about each school having somebody on the BTAT, the behavioral threat assessment team. So there will be outside people, the SRO, perhaps a psychologist or a pupil personnel worker. And those persons usually have a group of schools, but who within the school would be considered a mental health professional?
So this also includes the school counselor. And so, and when these cases come up, typically it's like the counselor, the school psychologist, who is supporting the building team. Because when these cases rise up to a level where they need intervention supports, they are going to meet monthly in order to continue to monitor and provide additional information around what's going on with the student in order to provide those intervention supports to them. So since those meetings are scheduled, the schools, even though the school psychologists may have multiple buildings, they are there and available to support the buildings. And as we increase the amount of school psychologists that we have in our schools to reduce their caseload, so now, because we have several that have only one building now, and so they are able, especially at our high schools, they're there full time to provide the support when these cases come up at that level.
Oh, that's terrific, because I know we have some really big high schools. And
Doc, if I could just add something as well, please. SROs are not in every case review that we have here. It's only in those higher threat levels where we may engage them. So they are not a sitting member of every case that comes before the school-based team or the centralized team.
Thank you.
Right.
But yeah, I was more concerned about who in the school, because those are the people who have to continue even when the BTAT is not meeting. And the implicit bias training is for which staff? This is MCPS activities to date continued. Would it be for the behavioral threat assessment teams, the counselors, the psychologists? Who's getting that training? The bottom line is, did teachers get any of that training?
So there has been training that has been brought forward by the Equity Office. Last school year, they had mandatory implicit bias training that was part of the compliance module for all staff. So all MCPS staff from SEIU, MCA, MCAP, all staff had to take the implicit bias training last school year. But it is included within the behavior threat assessment team training. So anyone who is going to serve on the behavior threat assessment team has additional training in implicit bias and how it impacts the behavior threat assessment process.
Yes, well, we've all had to take the mandatory training, and so I do know that we have the implicit bias, but I think it's important to continue with this because the referrals come out of the classroom and end up, maybe not with a gun, but they end up where we don't want them. On Resolution 6, the anonymous reporting systems, are we dealing with that with the language? I mean, I know the state has set this up and you're working with them. I think that's what I'm understanding, but can they translate?
I'm not sure if they have that capacity at this particular time, but they're always looking to enhance and improve that. That will be something I will check on through the Maryland Center for School Safety, and we can report back to you. But an excellent question.
Yeah, I think that's the last question I had. Thank you very much for responding.
Mr. Asante?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's great to see everything that's being done in terms of the reforming the drills and also the implicit bias training. I also wanted to give a shout out to our student who testified or who gave their advocacy piece today, Helena. I remember seeing her present that resolution at an MCR meeting last year, so I'm happy we're following up on that. I did have a couple of questions in relation to some of the things that were mentioned in the resolution and what we're doing about them. The first with Resolution 1 and the Student Handbook piece. I know we have those videos going out to parents, but I was wondering if we are putting any information in the Student Handbook about the legal obligations of parents to keep firearms away from students.
I'm going to just sort of raise an issue about that. I mean, I certainly think it can be included in the student handbook. Would fall under the student rights and responsibilities. But in talking to staff and thinking about it, the other piece I think that we need to examine is the student handbook and student rights and responsibility document are really intended for students. I'm not sure, Nick, what's your experience as a student? Do you take it home and share it with your parents or not? But we do have a policy on parent and community involvement. And I think that the Policy Management Committee really needs to take a look at that for how we should handle communications directly to parents, and whether, through the regulations that undergird those, the policies for parent and community engagement, are there opportunities that we need to expand here in MCPS? Certainly we work through our partners like the NAACP Parent Council and Identity and MCCPTA, and we should take every opportunity to communicate. But I'm not sure, it's a reminder to students, but really the targeted market is for parents. So I think that's a takeaway from the conversation today. How best to communicate with parents and what's the most effective means?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, because like you said, I don't know how many students who do share their student handbook with their parents after they receive it. And then I guess just one more question about sort of when planning drills, is that the date for the drills, is that something that's determined like on the individual school level, or is there sort of guidance from the county about when to hold their drills? Because I did notice the part about informing families ahead of time, or informing parents ahead of time about when schools are hosting drills.
Yes, sir, Mr. Asante. Yeah, we work with the principals, the cluster security coordinators, work with the principals as to the timing. They sort of know the activities in their calendar, so they try to get these drills in when they can. Some of the principals are very good. They'll send a letter home explaining when a drill was, what occurred and the outcome. So a lot of different opportunities at the school level, but that's really coordinated by the local building principal.
All right. Thank you for that. And once again, thank you for the presentation. Those are all my questions.
So circling back to your first question about the handbook and my thought about the community and parent involvement, I wonder if we should engage with Mr. Davis's unit to work and brainstorm about how best to communicate across our broad spectrum of parents, being sensitive to language and all communities, not just traditional MCCPTA, about communicating the obligation of parents to lock up firearms. And I throw that out as sort of on the to-do list. Also are looking at the policy on parent and community engagement, involvement and on that. And then a couple of the speakers talked about LA Unified School System and what they're doing. And I know there's an emphasis there on sending postcards to folks. I know that in the 90s, under the Safe and Drug-Free School Act, there was effort to have parents and students sign pledges. And I'm not sure that pledges are the most effective means. And they referenced a postcard campaign. I wasn't aware that we had been contemplating that, but that given the litigious nature of Montgomery County and our the previous experiences in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals under flyers, backpack flyers, et cetera, I just wonder, how we contemplate communication to parent communities. And I wasn't aware of any postcard campaign, but can we also look and see what LA Unified is doing in the terms of the school safety campaigns? Yes.
Thank you. In reference to Mr. Asante's final point, I actually had that highlighted as well as something that that resolution number 8, I feel, is very, very, very important, particularly the part about notifying parents and families that it's coming, making sure that that the students understand, really what we're doing. I know that it's really, we have to trust our principals to make those notifications and things. But I have in the past been contacted by parents who came, their students came home and they said that there was some big incident and the parent didn't realize it was a drill. And so I don't know. I think it might be worth us looking at some way of making sure that's happening, that notifications going home to families in advance, rather than making it from the central office maybe, or as opposed to leaving it up to the individual schools, just for more consistency is a thought.
So we do have some follow-ups. This work is ongoing. It involves safety for our kids and our staff. It involves everyone in the community. And it's not just we adopt something at this moment. There were a number of points in their sort of preamble to their resolution, speaking about that in most school shooting situations, it's either a student or a former student, that someone had some idea, people knew this was a potential problem. It's been my experience that with some of our most serious incidents here in Montgomery County, and fingers crossed and God forbid we never have a Columbine or a Sandy Hook or a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, but that requires proactivity of everyone. But that parents, were aware of some warning signs. We had many, many, many years ago, we had a situation involving a student who built a bomb and carried it on the school bus and sold it to another student to blow up a teacher's car, and that bomb went into the locker at a school. And thank goodness a student told, and the principal evacuated the building. But when the student's mom appealed his expulsion, she said, well, he was using my credit card to buy chemicals on the internet. And, but I thought he was just blowing up rabbit holes. I didn't know. And safety requires vigilance of all of our school professionals, our students with their peer groups, hence the anonymous tip line, and parents' vigilance. And so I look forward to continued discussions to keep everyone safe. And I thank MCCPTA, MCR, Moms Demand Action, and actually the Brady campaign also for their public service announcement. And with that, if nobody else has any comments or questions in this section, we will move on to our next item, which is policy ACF, sexual harassment. So thank you, Mr. Clark and Dr. Conley.
Thank you.
So Ms. Williams, I think that's you.
You're on mute. You're muted.
Apologies. The next item on our agenda is policy ACF, sexual harassment. Before we get into the actual changes and proposed revisions to the policy, I'd like to give the committee and the community a little bit of background and on what brings us to this work today. So the United States Department of Education released regulations regarding the implementation of Title IX sexual harassment requirements in May of this year, with an effective date of August of this school year, August 2020. Previously, we did not have specific regulations for this section of the Civil Rights Act. Rather, we were operating under guidance that had been developed by previous administrations. So these regulations are the first time that we have specifically had federal regulations with respect to sexual harassment of students. And the new law presents a very complex, the new regulations address a very complex body of law with multiple components. I'll give you just a few highlights as to and their impact on our work today. First of all, there is a new definition, or there is finally a specific definition of sexual harassment. Now, this new definition that we're working with sets forth a higher standard to which conduct must rise in order for it to be classified as sexual harassment and actionable under this particular body of law. The new regulations also specify supportive measures that must be provided to both the alleged victim as well as the alleged harasser. It also includes processes and restrictions for the provision of those supportive measures. There are additional steps that are required and specified in the investigative process for conduct that is considered sexual harassment under the new regulations. And then these steps include notifications to all parties, specific types of notifications to all parties, as well as opportunities for responses throughout the process. This process can take up to 60 days if we were to have such an investigation. It could take up to 60 days to fully complete the investigative process. I also want to give you a bit of an update on what we have been doing in MCPS since the release of the regulations in May in order to ensure our compliance. So staff from the Office of the General Counsel, as well as the Student Welfare and Compliance Unit in the Office of the Chief of Staff, have been working together to ensure that should an incident occur that rises to the standard set forth in the new definition, we are prepared to manage the investigation with the requisite follow-up measures in accordance with the new regulations. From a sort of a practical matter, in the schools and for the students and their families who may experience these kinds of have these kinds of experiences on a daily basis, just in the daily operation of the school, the reporting process is going to look to be the same as it has been in the past, and in that they will be using the form that is provided under our bullying, harassment, and intimidation process, which is mandated by law and incorporated in policy, other policies that this board has already implemented. Now, that process for reporting incidents of bullying, harassment, or intimidation has always required that incidents involving sexual misconduct be communicated directly and immediately to the Student Welfare and Compliance Office. And that office has always provided additional support to investigations of incidents involving sexual misconduct. So effective immediately at the implementation of this new regulation, when such conduct that includes sexual misconduct is reported to the Student Welfare Compliance Unit, they take particular note to make an assessment of whether the conduct appears to rise to the level that's required in this new definition. Mr. Gregory Edmondson is also joining us today, and a little later he will be able to provide some examples and discussion of how this process, fuller explanation of how this process works. But I'd like to provide this overview before we get into the policy itself. So the Student Welfare and Compliance Office will directly support and continue to directly support and oversee investigations that include conduct of a sexual nature and ensure that any conduct that meets the new requirements of the new regulation are managed within the requirements, the investigative and the investigative requirements, and the supportive measures are provided, the notice and response time, and so forth. If the conduct does not appear to rise to the level that this new standard of sexual harassment sets, the investigation will continue to be investigated at the local school level, again with support from the Student Welfare and Compliance Unit as necessary. So Mr. Edmondson's office will play a critical role in helping schools to distinguish the investigative path that must be followed depending on the conduct that is presented. So some steps that have been taken to ensure compliance since the new regulations have been announced. Over the summer, training was provided to over 400 critical staff members, including our counselors, PPWs, psychologists, parent community coordinators, etc., so that there is broad awareness of the new requirements. Our board members are probably familiar with resources that we provide to principals called quick guides, which gives them a checklist, essentially, of the steps to follow when such conduct occurs in their building. And they have been given updated quick guides and additional tools, investigative tools. The Student Welfare and Compliance Office is also collaborating with Student Leadership and the Equity Initiatives Unit to develop a student training module that educates students on sexual harassment and with the new Title IX definitions and sexual misconduct in general. It's also intended to increase their awareness, to recognize harassment or assault and provide multiple ways for students to report this conduct. And these modules will be required for all students in grades 6 through 12. And there will also be an opportunity for students to provide information about the level of concerns that they are experiencing in their own schools to help the school administration to determine plans for improving the culture and climate on each school levels. Also, the new regulations require districts to publicly identify the Title IX coordinator and requisite contact information. So over the summer, as we were preparing all of the handbooks and communication tools that go out to students and families, the non-discrimination statement was updated in a way to specifically include how to the contact information for the Title IX coordinator, which is, again, Mr. Gregory Edmondson, and we have a newly created Dropbox for these complaints. So if someone would prefer to provide that information without making a face-to-face contact initially, they can send it through a Dropbox to the Dropbox, and follow-up will be made. So a few differences between the new reg and the current implementation of the sexual harassment policy that we had in place prior to now that I want to highlight. Start with the definition to help distinguish between what is actionable under Title IX regulations in accordance with these new regulations, as opposed to what we were doing in the past. So we'll see this when we get into the policy, but there's a lot of language change happening in the policy, and I thought it would be better to just lift this up so you will see where we're going with it when we get to that part of the policy. So comparative language from the old version, our previously existing policy, ACF, says that when conduct has the effect of unreasonably interfering with the individual's performance, academic performance, or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive learning environment, that was what was considered sexual harassment. And ask you to compare that to the new definition, the standard within the new definition, which sets forth that it requires unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person to equal access. So we're coming from unreasonably interfering to effectively denies. Again, Mr. Edmondson will be able to give you some examples of experiences we've had in the past that clarify the distinction. You will see when we review the policy that we've added to the policy the term sexual misconduct. And that is the term that that is commonly used to address conduct of a sexual nature as it comes up, to address the inappropriate conduct that doesn't rise to this level of so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies. We still have a process for addressing that type of conduct as well. So the last little bit of background I'll give you before we move into reviewing the policy is, first of all, almost done, not completely done with the background. I want to tell you that this policy addresses sexual misconduct and sexual harassment of students. We will come back to you at your next Policy Management Committee meeting in December and discuss the same topic as it relates to staff, and then the intention is to send both of the documents out for public comment at the same time. So you will notice that all references in this policy now are to students. We're coming back with the document to address staff, and we'll send them out together. So you will notice in the materials that you have been provided 3 documents of the original ACF, which was suspended last month, and then you have 2 documents with our line numbered pages and so forth. You will see, and those 2 are both dated October 15th, draft 1. There are just so many changes that we knew you'd want to see, be able to identify the changes, but it makes it difficult to follow. So I will be working from the document that does not show tracked changes. So when I reference line numbers, it's to the version where you don't see bold and strikeovers. It has 12 pages as opposed to 18. Well, I will now just go through some highlights within the policy itself. So again, not very different from the current version of the policy. We're setting forth that the purpose is to affirm the board's opposition to sexual misconduct and sexual harassment in Montgomery County public schools, to mandate the development of educational programs designed to help employees and students recognize, understand, prevent, and take corrective action to end sexual misconduct and sexual harassment, and to establish a framework of effective procedures for addressing complaints of sexual misconduct and sexual harassment. I'll just move us right along to the position section, which starts at the bottom of page 2 on line 52. And this is where you will see we've brought in the definitions. We don't usually have definitions of this detail in policies, but it's important for this one. And we start off with sexual misconduct. And this is conduct which is can be verbal, written, or physical behavior directed to an individual or against a particular group because of, and then it lists a variety of personal characteristics relating to an individual or group's sex or gender, when that conduct is unwelcome and meets the following criteria. And it speaks to several categories of conduct. It could be submission to or rejection of the conduct is made a term or condition of the individual's education or participation in educational activities, or if the conduct submitting to or rejecting the conduct is used as a basis for or factor in decisions affecting their education or participation in activities, or it has the effect of creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. Or it unreasonably interferes with their education or ability to participate. And this is the language that we spoke of before, it is sufficiently severe or pervasive that it alters the terms or conditions or participation or privileges of an individual's education. Then we move at line 102, sexual harassment. And this is the new definition that I have referred to. It sets out the laws under which it's been set forth. And then similarly, the criteria for classifying it as the conduct as sexual harassment. The type of conduct may have resulted from an MCPS employee conditioning the provision of an MCPS aid, benefit, or service on an individual's participation in unwelcome sexual conduct, or it could be any unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person equal access to MCPS educational programs or activities. It also incorporates the definitions from federal law, and we didn't want to put the full federal definitions in the law, so we refer out to that. But for conduct that is determined by law to be sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, or stalking. Once we complete the definitions, we have a few more clarifying statements with respect to the type of conduct. For it to be actionable and considered under the Title IX requirements, it must have occurred within the United States, and specifically to our implementation, it must have occurred under circumstances in which MCPS had substantial control over both the harasser and the context in which the harassment occurred. So again, this is classifications of the conduct that set a higher standard than what must have occurred for it to be considered sexual misconduct and investigated and responded to in the same manner that we have in the past. Section 3, starting at line 140, gives some context into how the analysis is done. It's evaluated under the totality of the circumstances, including the frequency, the severity, whether it's physically threatening or humiliating, or if it's an offensive conduct or utterance. And these factors are evaluated from a both subjective and an objective viewpoints, considering the impact on the alleged victim, as well as how it may have been perceived by a reasonable person in the same situation. At line 53, we specify that conduct that does not meet this new federal definition of sexual harassment will continue to be investigated, and discipline will be applied as appropriate in accordance with policy JHF, the bullying, harassment, or intimidation, the student code of conduct, and if applicable, the MCPS code of conduct. We have some examples that start at line 162 of the types of conduct that may be considered sexual misconduct or sexual harassment. Then we move to the application of these requirements. So whether students or their parents or guardians who are experiencing or witnessing sexual misconduct or sexual harassment, they should report the matter to their principal or other MCPS staff, who will guide them through the reporting process, as well as the provision of other supportive measures. So all allegations of sexual misconduct or sexual harassment committed against students whether it's by students, MCPS employees, contractors, vendors, volunteers, any such conduct against our students will be investigated by the principal or their designee in collaboration with the Student Welfare and Compliance Unit, in accordance with requirements of all state and federal laws. In the cases of sexual misconduct or sexual harassment, all involved parties will be notified of available supportive measures, and some examples of those measures are included. This policy also sets forth that the board prohibits retaliation against an individual who reports the sexual misconduct or sexual harassment in any form, or someone who participates in the investigation. Beginning on page 8, we talk about the desired outcomes, which are consistent with the topics that we have covered thus far. And the implementation strategies set forth the expectations of the board for the superintendent, that the superintendent will appoint a Title IX coordinator, develop regulations to implement the policy, educate all students and parents and guardians about the policy and the associated laws, conduct professional development, provide annual mandatory training, have a code of conduct in place or other guidance for both students and employees and anyone else on MCPS property that sets forth the standards for responsible behavior. We'll also implement the comprehensive health education instructional program for all students. This too is required by Maryland law and includes guidance regarding sexual conduct. On page 10, it references opportunities beyond those described in this policies and otherwise provided in MCPS. And any time a student who is alleging such violation of Title IX may contact directly the Office of Civil Rights within the U.S. Department of Education, or if they are alleging a crime of a sexual nature, they may go directly to Montgomery County law enforcement, and that information is provided here. Finally, the review and reporting section requires that the superintendent will report quarterly, as it's currently done, to the board on reported sexual harassment and sexual misconduct incidents. So that concludes my review of the policy, and certainly, Mrs. O'Neill, we are ready for discussion.
Okay, so before I turn it over to my colleagues, I have one question. As I read this section getting at line 129, in reference to outside of the United States. At first, as I read it, I was thinking, aha, okay, but I'm not sure that this is clear to everyone that, we have band trips and choral trips that go to Canada. We have class trips that go to Europe, art classes or foreign language classes. I mean, not now because of COVID, but they don't just get a, free ride on sexual harassment or sexual misconduct outside of the United States. At first reading, I read it like, okay, only things in the United States. Anyway, that's just me.
It's not just you.
I would ask that you could look at that language and possibly clarify, because I think that someone, is this, substantially, MCPS substantially in control? I think if it's a school-sponsored activity, it needs to say that it's covered. I think we need to work on that section.
Okay, we will certainly work on that, and I will just reference that that may be that the federal statute does, or federal regulations that set forth the investigative process, therefore appeals and so forth to that. I will seek the clarification, because I'm sure that this is not the first time that this question has come up, but it may be the fact that the investigation is not considered actionable under the Title IX regulations, but that does not mean that MCPS, under any circumstances, I know for sure that it does not mean that MCPS would not take action as described as sexual misconduct in other aspects of the policy. But I will look for that distinction.
I think if we are stuck with what the federal language is, then we're stuck with it. But I think that we need to have some clarifying language, because as I read it, all of those items that I just named, the band competition in Toronto,
right,
or Montreal, would be excluded from this, and by no way, shape, or form should that be the case.
If I could just jump in, I wanted to, and again, thank you for the time this afternoon to allow us to walk through this with you. Per the policy, that is the definition under sexual harassment through the Civil Rights Act and through Title IX. The beauty of rewriting this policy now and not sticking with what we have been doing is that we are clearly identifying the difference between sexual harassment and sexual misconduct. So anything that might happen on a band trip in Canada will certainly be followed up through our MCPS protocols. And we would even, potentially, if it's criminal, obviously work with our external partners. But for the sake of the policy, that is from the Title IX regulations. That's why we also have added the sexual misconduct, so that there's no wiggle room with this, that we're not going to say, well, it happened in Canada, we're not doing anything. We have a sexual misconduct protocol because of this language that's really going to help us with that we did not have before. So I think that's a strength.
Okay, I just would ask you to take a look at that language.
So we can make it abundantly clear that the federal law may not apply if it occurs out of the United States. However, the investigation under the category of sexual misconduct still applies. And so MCPS will continue to investigate, and MCPS will have disciplinary opportunities in alignment with the code of conduct, et cetera. It's just that the federal regulation, which provides, additional levels of the investigate. It makes distinctions within the way in which it is investigated, the letters and notifications and timelines and so forth that are required, but does not stop us from taking action in accordance with our code of conduct.
Okay, that sounds like appropriate language to clarify.
So we can make that clarification, certainly.
I'm going to start with Mr. Asante this time.
All right, thank you for going through the policy. I did want to mention, I really like the Dropbox idea, allowing students to use that as a way to report, and also the student training modules that you guys are about to present. I did have two quick questions. One, you had mentioned that investigations could now take up to 60 days. I was wondering how that was different from the previous policy. Like, was there a set period of time that investigations could take place with the old policy?
So I'm going to ask Mr. Edmondson to talk about the investigative timeline. But again, this is what makes it tricky, the new language, in that there's federal sexual harassment requirements, and that is at the highest level conduct that objectively denies, whereas if it is not, it unreasonably interferes, then that conduct that conduct is investigated in accordance with the investigative procedures that we've had in place all along. But I'd ask Mr. Edmondson to talk a little bit about the difference in the investigations and the timelines that would flow therefm.
Yeah, I mean, just a brief answer. As Ms. Williams has stated, we did not have these regulations per Title IX prior to this past summer. And so that's the first we've had an official 60-day timeline for officially completing and closing with outcomes on a Title IX harassment case. We do not follow a specific timeline with regards to any of our sexual misconduct or sexual disruptive behavior of a sexual nature. We do not have a defined number of days in which we need to follow up. We work closely with the Chief Safety Officer, Ed Clark, and others to ensure that we're being as expedient as we absolutely need to be. We work with our partners of Montgomery County Police Department. Sometimes it may take longer than others, just depends on the case. One thing for sure is that we implement our safety measures, and in the policy it says, safety measures, but we call them safety plans with our schools, for our alleged victims and our alleged offenders, until we know any outcomes with regards to an investigation. So it's not, we're not defined by a specific timeline, and we don't care that we have one either. We try to work through the process as effectively and as thorough as needed.
Mr. Edmondson, can you share whether they typically take more or less than 60 days?
I mean, that'd be hard to really say. Like, they usually take 30 days. I mean, it just depends on the facts, and it depends on, it's all really individually based. Nick, you've been working with us with the sexual allegations over the summer, and we appreciate your support in helping us get the word out with this work. But I would say that some of those cases we were able to follow up very quickly. We had the information we needed, and others, they have taken weeks, and we continue to investigate those as they're coming in. So it just kind of depends on what the circumstances are.
And I can also add for clarification, Mr. Santi, the 60 days, the regulation doesn't specify 60 days. However, it does set forth steps in the investigative process that require notice to each of the parties, and there's a lot of steps in that investigative process, and then you provide information, and then you wait 10 days for a response. Then once the response, then there is an additional action, and then there is another 10 days for response. So those types of steps are not embedded in into the current investigative process, the opportunities, requirements for notice, and length of time for all parties to respond to the notice. And that's what takes the process longer than, or could take longer than our current process. Right now, they go through the investigative process, but there aren't these required timelines built into it that could add up to the 60-day timeline, simply because we have to provide the notice at each level. And it's a right that's afforded to all of the parties, and certainly that's appropriate, but it just builds in extra time into the process, in addition to the investigative work that Mr. Edmondson oversees with the principal and schools-based staff and community partners as necessary.
And thank you for clarifying that. And I had one more question for clarification, just with like line 200 on page 7. The board prohibits retaliation against an individual who reports. Could you just clarify what exactly you mean by retaliation? Does that mean like community retaliation or retaliation from staff members?
So that makes, if someone responds or takes action against a student or anyone who reports the sexual misconduct or sexual harassment, that in of itself becomes conduct that is actionable, and that it is addressed in our code of conduct. So if someone doesn't necessarily commit the act of sexual misconduct or sexual harassment, but if they do something to the person, put them in a difficult, whether it's an actual physical response or sending them a verbal or written message or something that puts them in a position of retaliation because of the fact that they made a report of sexual misconduct or sexual harassment, or they were the witness and they supported the investigative process, that action in and of itself becomes actionable.
All right, thank you. And I just wanted to mention really quickly that I had heard from students when they had heard that we were updating the policy. A lot of them were concerned that we may disregard cases that we now consider as misconduct. So I'm glad that we have that outlined as to how we're dealing with that.
Thank you.
Dr. Daka?
I have no questions and comments. Thank you so much for the presentation. There was a lot to go through and to think about. We appreciate the clarity.
Ms. Mondrowski?
Thank you. Thank you for all your work on this. It was quite extensive amount of changes that you guys made. I really appreciate Mrs. O'Neill's comments because I had that highlighted as well. I immediately thought about the class trips or vacation type things that the kids go on, as well as, then I started thinking about the exchange students type of things, situations. But so I appreciate better wording on that. The Dropbox idea, I'm so glad that you all are going to be doing that. I've been, bringing that up, but I thought that there were concerns about the fact that we couldn't have a situation where people were not putting their names with it, because then someone could be essentially falsely accusing somebody just to cause them trouble and things like that. And so how are we addressing that issue? Because like I said, to me, I like the Dropbox even for like bullying incidents and stuff, because there are a lot of times kids don't want to report something because they're afraid it'll make it worse for them. But this way somebody else could report as well.
Right, so certainly we have received emails from anonymous reporters and unable to, not that we would necessarily do this, but unable to identify them based on their email address. Ed Clark in the previous presentation mentioned the safety tip line. We've received allegations and reports through the tip line that are anonymous. And as we shared in the most recent Let's Talk Respect, we have multiple ways that people can report. Obviously through Every Mind and through some other organizations and the Family Crisis Center. And so those different manners have, those different reporting mechanisms have a way of reporting anonymous as well.
Yeah, that's why I was questioned why we couldn't have a Dropbox, because people are allowed to make anonymous tips. But I hope that it's going to be checked every day.
It's actually on my inbox and my whole team's inbox every morning. So as soon as it's flagged, every morning we have access to that. It's not something we have to go into seek. If there's mail or if there's reports, it actually flags up right on our screen. So it's checked multiple times every day.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
So to my colleagues, it's now 5 o'clock. Our meeting was supposed to end, but we still have one more topic as we spend a great deal of time on the gun violence. It involves school meals, and we have a large number of staff who are joining us who are already here. I put it out to all of you. Can you stay and at least have the conversation, even if we have to postpone going through the line by line on the language? I throw it to you. I'm good. I'm available to stay. I don't know what your other obligations are.
I don't know. My calendar said 5:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mine said 5:30 as well. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good until 6.
Okay. All right. Well, we will have a hard stop. We will get through all of the presentation and lay the groundwork and attempt to start the policy if we have the time. Okay. I'm not sure who's beginning. Essie, are you picking it off?
We'll just go right to Mrs. McGuire. We'll keep it moving. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we will be speedy. I think we can cover some issues for the committee as you outlined, and certainly we are bringing before you a policy on our school lunch program, and we are required by federal law to have a policy around this. And so certainly, that piece is important, and we were on track last year. We had worked through the drafting process and actually were just on the verge of bringing it to the Policy Management Committee when, in fact, everything closed down for COVID. So we are coming back at the end of that interruption, and we appreciate your considering it today. The policy covers a number of features of the vital importance of our lunch program. The presentation that we want to focus on today, though, really is around the core issue of unpaid meal balances, which does need to be a feature of the policy. And so that is some of the data and pieces that we will bring to you today. Mrs. Pruitt with the Educational Foundation is here as well, and certainly her work in support of the and on behalf of the foundation in support of the Dine with Dignity program and providing that funding, it has been just absolutely critical. And it is just such a very, very important part of the work that we've been able to do over the last few years to really be able to expand our lunch service to students in all circumstances, which is always what we want to do. And so I will pause in just one moment and ask if Mrs. Pruitt would like to say anything, but I also do just want to note that part of what we want to bring to you today, again, is some data around our experience in the last few years. We do need to remind the committee and, of course, the public that the Food Service Fund is required by federal law to be self-sustaining and to meet certain fiscal requirements. And over the last few years, even with our due diligence to reach out to families with unpaid balances, and again, with the very generous support of the foundation, we still at this point do have a cumulative debt of over $400,000 that the district will need to find a way to address. And so I say that by way of unfortunate context in terms of what we want to bring to you today is a policy and an approach that continues with the spirit of what the committee and the board has spoken so clearly and what, of course, we want to do, which is, again, to continue to provide meals to students without causing stigma and without leaving any students out. But we also want to present something that we think will help with fiscal sustainability and that we think will help kind of bring another approach that will put some fiscal constraints on the program that will be helpful to us as we move forward, particularly as we enter a time where clearly our economic realities are becoming more challenged, not less. So with that, before we dive into the presentation, let me pause for a moment for the foundation.
Thank you, Hesse. The foundation was very pleased to get involved on this issue because it is a district-wide concern. I want to express my deep appreciation to our colleagues in food and nutrition services who have kept very good statistics for us so we could get a handle on the extent of the need and adjust our fundraising efforts accordingly. What we are finding is that when you look at the number on the aggregate, it's very large. But when you look at the number school by school, we think there's an opportunity for us to pursue sponsorships and have a reasonable level of success. We have the added good luck that USDA is making lunch free for this school year. And so we're taking advantage of this time when we don't have to pay for the lunches to open a lot of different dialogues throughout our community to look at being ready for future support when the charge system returns to our school cafes. But I appreciate the support of the Board of Education. I appreciate the support of our MCPS colleagues who have worked with us to get us what we need to try to meet the needs of our students and provide the district with fiscal support as well. Thank you all.
Thank you. And yes, that's a really important point as well, that at this moment, we certainly all are benefiting from the waivers that the federal and state governments have allowed to continue, which does mean that at this moment in time, all of our meals are able to be provided free to the community. And that is very, very critical and much appreciated for us in this unbelievably extraordinary time that we're all living through. So with that, I will stop and let us dive into the meat of our presentation, if that's okay. And then we have with us the Barbara Harrell, who's the acting director of our Division of Food and Nutrition Services, and Jeannie Dawson, who is our Director of Materials Management. And they're going to go through the bulk of the presentation. There are a lot of slides and a lot of data, but we will go quickly. A lot of it's just sort of background that we can just move through at a very highlighted level, but really wanted to present a little bit of the trajectory of where we've been with this program, because we really have sort of tried a lot of things and moved through a number of approaches.
All right, I'll take it away. Essie, thank you. I really would like to thank the Board of Education Policy Committee for giving us this time today, because we are in a little bit of a time when we don't have to really worry about this for tomorrow, but we know we need to do this work now and get it done. I'd like to share with you a little bit about MCPS and our Division of Food and Nutrition Services. I'm not sure who has our slides and can control those. Is it you, Essie? Someone.
There they are.
All right, so there's a man behind the curtain that will help us with that. So this talks about what the mission statement is for the division, and what it really means is we want to feed kids. We are all about feeding kids. We want to feed them nutritious meals, quality meals, and we want it to be in an effective and efficient operation, of course. We have over 800 dedicated employees, which all of you who have lived through this COVID time with us know that they were there with us from day one to now, no matter what, feeding our kids. And we talk about innovative learning environment. If this is not an innovative learning environment, I don't know what is. And so that's where we stand now. Next slide, please. So how do we translate this into our day-to-day operations? So our core values then become, we want nutritionally wholesome meals. We want them to reflect our ethnic, our cultural, religious diversity in MCPS. We have a huge commitment to sustainability, but again, we must also be economically viable. Next slide, please. So as Essie mentioned, we are an enterprise fund, and what that means is that we're self-supporting. So if we're self-supporting, where does our paycheck come from, basically? So the majority of our paycheck comes from federal reimbursement. We have some smaller reimbursements that in a regular year we would get from the state of Maryland. So we would have Maryland Meals for Achievement funding and some other things like that. What do we spend our money on? Well, like everybody, we spend our money on salaries and benefits, food, equipment, and of course, supplies. If we have a really good year, and in the past few years we have been fortunate enough to do that, we are allowed to carry over 3 months worth of revenue sort of as a cushion. And this year, for 1920, of course, we are very thankful that we had that cushion because we were able to hold our own. And it is critical that we maintain the financial integrity of all of our programs. Next slide, please. So now Jeannie is going to give you the history of school lunch procedures.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. So what we'd like to just highlight here is we had several different factors and components that we looked at in terms of the threshold amounts, the alternative meal, whether that was a choice or not, whether we moved from delinquent debt or bad debt in that particular year, was there cost sharing with schools, and what was the impact to the system as a whole. So when we look at school year 25-15, 16-17, essentially we were utilizing negative balances of $10.20 for cafeteria accounts. So any student in the county could charge up to $10.20 before any kind of meal situation would kick in. At that time, a student received a cheese sandwich at that point if they had accrued debt at the $10.20 mark. The delinquent debt to bad debt did not exist at that point because the cost sharing covered that for individual schools were responsible for those cheese sandwiches, and then there was consequently no financial impact at that point in the system. Next slide, please. When we look at 17-18, again, there was a change at this point in practice where we kept and maintained the $10.20 limit. When we did reach that limit for a particular student, once that negative balance was reached, we provided an alternate reimbursable meal at that point. We did get rid of the cheese sandwich. We turned that into a turkey and cheese sandwich with the addition of fruit, vegetable, and milk, so that all the components of a reimbursable meal were there. The delinquent to bad debt did not exist at that point. There was cost sharing that continued for the individual schools to pay for the alternate reimbursable meal, and that if there was any end of the year balances, those balances were cleared and paid. So there was no financial impact on the system. Next slide, please. When we came into the 2018-2019 year, this is where we began the Dine with Dignity Fund. We eliminated practices that identified a student with insufficient funds at that point. We began the year with the $10.20 limit at the beginning. We did not bring into Dine with Dignity until after October 31st. We began that program and support on November 1st of that year. The reason was because we didn't know what the impact could be to free and reduced program, and essentially submitting forms for free and reduced applicants. We wanted to make sure that people would continue to apply and not assume that you didn't need to apply for that program. So there was no impact at that point. And then we, as of November 1st, 2018, we removed the threshold completely at that point. Next slide, please. In the 2019-2020 year, as we continued through 18-19 through the rest of that year with no meal charge for any kind of delinquent balance, we began the school year in 2019 that same way. So Dine with Dignity Fund began the first day of school. There was no threshold at all, and there was no alternative meal offered at that point. So again, students could receive the meal of their choice regardless of the negative balance. Next slide, please. So when we look at the data, what does that show? Next slide. So if we look from left to right and start with the top bar situation from September 2018 to January 2019 to June 2019. If you just look at the bottom totals in September 2018, you could see that at that point in that month, there was $19,000 accrued, just over that, in meal debt. Several months later, as we get to the middle of the year, that meal debt has now become $136,000. And by the end of the school year, the final total debt was $297,000. When you look at the number of students, we're looking at, from the beginning, around 5,000 students, but to the end of the year, that debt encompassed roughly 15,000 students. If we move to the bottom, we are looking at the school year 2019 and 2020, where we began the school year with no limit. And within the first month, we had it had accrued 62,000. So that by the time we got to January, with 15,000 students, we were now up to $365,000 in meal debt, just to demonstrate what the difference was and how we started each year and where it moved financially. Next slide, please. And great. So here's just a bar graph to just show, when we looked at the actual number of students with negative balances, we saw something interesting in the beginning of this program in 2018-19. When you look at elementary in the blue, tan for middle, and gray for high school, the first year from September to June, we found that elementary students took advantage of the opportunity for the program more in numbers. Now, you know, there's more elementary schools. And then as we moved to the second year, where we had captured data from September to January, you could see that the secondary number of students started to increase. Next slide, please. And that's what those two components say. Thank you. You can click into the next two pieces. Thank you. That's good. Thank you. So what we saw when you actually looked at the balances, the sharp increase of negative balances in that first year, again, like I had said, was really coming from the elementary level. What was interesting in the second year, when we look at September through January of 19 and 20, the negative balance total really started to swing into the secondary. And we saw middle schools surpass elementaries in terms of the meal debt. So secondary had increased. Next slide, please. Here is essentially the same thing. This is the most recent data from January 31st on 2020, and you can see at the bottom the counts and the numbers, and you can see the difference between farms, non-farms. Continue to the next slide, please. Here is a much simpler way of looking at this. When we looked at paid students only, a count of just over 10,000, they accrued almost $300,000 of the debt, where free and reduced students, if we look at 5,500, accrued 1/3 of the debt, which was about 104,000 at the time. So we're really talking about 15,000 students in terms of this meal debt. The final number, if we go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Thank you. So if you look at the very bottom, essentially we're talking about just over $410,000 really by the end of this year, 2020. And essentially 1/3 of that is from free and reduced students, and 2/3 of that are from non-farm students. Next slide, please. And I'll pass this back to Barbara. Thank you.
Sorry, I had to unmute his. Next slide, please. So as general, when we're looking at best practices or what could we be doing or what should we be doing, we tend to benchmark with other districts around the state and sometimes across the river. So we looked at a number of other counties to see what they were doing and how they were handling it in the hopes that we would discover a way to handle this that would work better for us. We really did not see anything in the other districts that gave us any hints of how to do it better. Next slide, please. So what we did look at last January and what we got from a number of other districts, every district in Maryland, was we looked at how much they had for their unpaid balances for lunch only. Now, I will say in Montgomery County, this does include breakfast and lunch, but once a student is either paid or reduced or free, they do not pay for breakfast. The reduced students don't pay either. So this really is a significant cost difference, as you can see from us, from all the other districts. The only one that's even close to us really is Cecil County. Next slide, please. Next slide. So really what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to provide every student that is in our school, the meal that they want, not just the meal that we think that they should have. We want them to be able to focus on learning. We know that hungry children cannot learn. We do not want to shame any child. No one wants to do that. We want to naturally maintain the financial integrity. And so we are hoping that we can implement a consistent policy regarding the collection of delinquent debt as well. Next slide, please. So I'll turn this back over to Jeannie now.
Jeannie, you're on mute. Are you going to be able to go through the
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. Next slide, please. Thank you, Essie. Okay, so in what we have garnered from all of this were the option policies here. So we're really providing 3 policy options. Option 1, and we looked at, again, 4 different areas: the threshold amount, should there be one; an alternate meal, should there be one; delinquent debt, how does that move from delinquent to bad debt; and cost impact. So in option 1, we're looking at the fact that there would be no threshold for the amount of unpaid meal charges a student could accumulate. So there's no threshold. All students would be able to continue to charge the full meals, regardless of unpaid meal charges. There would be no alternate meal served anywhere in MCPS. Delinquent debt, all delinquent debt accrued by students who qualify for farms or free and reduced would be paid through the Foundation Dine with Dignity Fund. And delinquent debt accrued by full pay students would be paid by non-federal funds in MCPS. So that would be determined somehow. Cost impact would be to continue to accrue system obligations. Essentially, we could easily see over $400,000 in debt per year or more. Next slide, please. Meal charge policy option 2 would be a hybrid approach. When we look at the threshold amount, we're essentially saying there would be no threshold for students who qualify for free and reduced meals. There would be no threshold for the amount of unpaid meal charges that a student could accumulate. However, the hybrid approach would say yes for full paid students. So if a student is a full paid student, they would have a threshold of $35 of unpaid meal charges, which is the equivalent of really 8 to 9 breakfast and lunches combined at the elementary or secondary levels. We would also say an alternate meal, yes, full paid students only, where unpaid meal charges above that threshold of $35 would be providing an alternate reimbursable meal. So they would get a full meal that would include, fruit, vegetables, and such. The delinquent debt, all the delinquent debt accrued by free and reduced students would be paid through the Foundation Dine with Dignity Fund. And delinquent debt accrued by full paid students, again, we would look towards non-federal funds and MCPS. The cost impact of this for utilizing an alternative reimbursable meal does provide some cost containment for our school system, similar to previous practices, and mitigates the system impact. So it keeps the cost impact away from schools. We would continue with the current ways that we reach out to do those things. Next slide, please. The final meal charge policy option that we we're proposing would be the threshold amount means, yes, there would be a threshold of $35 for all students of unpaid meal charges, and above which a student may no longer charge a reimbursable meal of their choice. Alternate meal, yes, all students would, with unpaid meal charges above $35 would be served an alternate reimbursable meal. And again, just as in the previous option, the menu choice will be available to all students. Delinquent debt, all delinquent debt accrued by students who qualify for free and reduced meals program would be paid through the Dine with Dignity Fund. And again, delinquent debt would be paid by non-federal funds for MCPS. And finally, with the cost impact, with this model, the alternative reimbursable meal provides some cost containment for the system resources, similar to the previous one. And previous MCPS practices include schools in contributing to end-of-year payment for unpaid meal charges. So there would be a cost share there. Next slide, please. And I pass this back to Barbara for this final slide.
So now we'd like to talk about communication. So how would we communicate and how have we communicated? So many of these policies that we've had in place, we have communicated with our parents, but we would want to communicate with all households with students enrolled at the beginning of the year. As the school year went on, if we have students that transfer into MCPS, we would naturally also want to communicate with them. We would also need to provide the policy in writing, of course, to any of our staff that are responsible for policy enforcement. So this might include our cafeteria staff. It might include our school counselors, our school administration. Meal charge procedures would be shared through multiple methods. So we would post this on our website. Some of this information would be added possibly to our menus that we post. It could also be added to other, in the newsletters that go out in the summer. Most of our principals communicate with their schools, with a back to school message and pre-surface information. And so we would use that. And to the greatest extent possible, communication regarding unpaid meal charges. So those would be in excess. Once they go negative, those communications would be with parents or guardians. We've notified parents of this, and this has been the best practice that we really have utilized the past few years. And so at this point, we would like to ask the board to make this a policy.
And so thank you. That does conclude our presentation, and we appreciate the patience and flexibility in listening to all of this information. I know it's a lot, but we do, again, I think it's helpful, hopefully, to share the history and the different iterations that we've been through with this. As you can see, the potential fiscal impact is significant, and that's why in the draft policy that we are putting forward, we have put forward that hybrid model that we reflected as option 2, in which we would not have a threshold at all for free and reduced meal students. Those students would continue without any impact related to their unpaid charges. For paid students who are not eligible for free and reduced meals, we would significantly increase the threshold. So we would go from the previous $10 to $35, which really, I think, reflects a more, just really more cushion, more time to work with the families and the students, and a significant number of meals to accrue there. And then at that point, the alternate meal, while it does help us cost contain, it would be a full meal that is available to all students. So students would go through the line and select that meal, and we would work with students ahead of time to mitigate any kind of impact during the lunch line experience. And we would work also with our staff members, and it's really a school support experience at that point. Again, really emphasizing that advanced communication to avoid that, but also providing a little bit of a fiscal backstop to help encourage our families who are in paid status to participate in the meal program through those means. So that concludes our presentation, and I again appreciate the time.
So before we move into the policy, does anybody have any questions? Dr. Daka? Do you have any questions, Dr.
Yeah,
Daka?
I do. Bad debt, delinquent debt and bad debt, those are terms that the federal government uses, and so we must use them.
Yes, they are terms from the federal government, and again, it does have to be covered. It doesn't evaporate or go away. So the presentation referenced non-federal funds. Basically, that just means other MCPS dollars.
So that part I understood, yeah, but the terminology bothers me.
Sorry about that.
Ms. Mondrowski?
So I had questions as we were going along. A lot of them have been sort of answered. I guess just for clarification, so when you're looking at the numbers, I mean, as I was looking at the numbers, the other day, I was thinking, well, why would anybody pay for their food if they know that they can still get any choice of food without paying for the food? So I obviously am supportive of a change in the policy. I guess my question is, I think it's really important that the menu choice be available to all students. That to me was key, because it is important that we're not food shaming anybody or identifying people based on what they're eating. Plus the turkey and cheese sandwiches are good. But how you made it sound as though that would complicate things with the food line and stuff like that. So, because you were mentioning like you'd have to get assistance to get through the line or whatever. And I'm just wondering how other kids would do it if they were paying for it, if they made it their choice.
I apologize if I made it sound complicated, and I should probably let Barbara or Jeannie describe it so that it doesn't sound as complicated.
So I think a couple of things would possibly happen with this. So in many elementary schools, the managers will talk to their kids, every day. So they might say, and they might say to pretty much every student that comes through, you've got X amount left on your balance, or your balance. They might just say your balance is getting a little low. You may want to bring some money in next week. And so as it got very near the cutoff or before they went negative, they would probably be saying, you're gonna be negative next week, so you really better bring money in. However, when we get to the point where we would have to then say do a meal substitution, if they happen to not choose that entree, then we would try and work with the kids and say, tomorrow, for lunch, we're gonna have to do some choices. So pick your meat, pick your milk, what kind of milk you want, get your fruit, get your vegetable, and then this item will be on the line. And it will probably be the same item unless there are allergy issues each day. So at some point, some of the kids will know that the menu item, the choice for them, if they are going above 35 to say 40 and above, they would know that tomorrow that will be their choice. We don't want to have to get to the point where the cashier would say, no, you cannot have that. You have to have this instead.
Right.
We want to avoid that at all costs.
And Barbara, I'll add this. Yeah, first of all, we won't have our staff saying those things. And we've worked with them on all of that as well. However, what we do want you to know is it would not be the first time when they reach a $35 amount. That's not the first time we're contacting families.
Oh, no.
We would actually talk with the family and see, what can we support you in another way? We provide letters to let balance notices that let parents know that they're reaching a lower balance, just to give people reminders, because we know how busy people are. So I don't want you to walk away thinking that we would wait till that last minute to do those things.
No, I remember from my children getting those notices like, your balance is going to be, hit $10 or something. You better add money now. So I would. I guess I want to try and be quick, but the $35, how did we come up with that? That seems very high.
Great question. Again, essentially, we looked at what would be reasonable to give people an amount of time to prepare or to come up with extra funding. So we gave them basically 9 to 10 days of lunch and breakfast with reminders, obviously. And that's where the $35 is coming from at an elementary and secondary level.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Asante?
Thank you for the presentation. I think you've answered most of my questions. My biggest concern was with the food shaming, the idea of food shaming. So I'm glad that you thought that out and have things in place to avoid that happening.
So I have a question just for people who might say, but we have children on free or reduced meals. How is it that they end up with lunch owing money? I mean, even though it's going to be covered under this proposal by the Ed Foundation, by the Dine with Dignity, how do they end up owing money?
So if a student starts off the year and they have 30 days, let's say they were free and reduced student from the previous year, they have 30 days to, again, resubmit the forms, their family. If by chance people don't get the forms, the applications in time, then the account could revert back, and then they would be accruing payments. They would be accruing debt until the new paperwork came in for them. The other thing that happened is when we started the year, we found that people had accrued debt, but they were actually able to qualify for free and reduced meals. So that's where some of the funding is coming from, the fact that they started off the year that way, or they didn't get the paperwork in time, and for a period of time they accrued debt. So that's kind of what's happening. Barbara, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think with the diverse population that we have in Montgomery County, many countries do not have any kind of program that is similar to this. So if you come here from elsewhere, you wouldn't know that you could even apply for something like this. And so again, when you get, and I know as a parent, the first week of school, you get a stack of papers like this to fill out, and the ones that the teacher didn't really require come back may get missed, or it's left in the backpack. And so we find that parents either don't know about it or don't understand about it. With some of our population that is immigrant, they may be afraid to fill it out. And so that really takes that touch from the school to assure them of the confidentiality and that they can reach out and do this. So that's why there's debt for free and reduced. The $35, the other note is that a student who is reduced could go the whole year and not hit that threshold. So that was also important to us, that we would not be ever saying anything to our reduced kids as well. Okay. So just an observation, I know this policy is very near and dear to the full board's heart. everybody is concerned about making sure that our children are fed and that there is no lunch shaming. In fact, Ms. Evans had done a new business item some time ago about providing nutritious meals to students. And it's also one that everybody wants to be extremely sensitive to the difficult fiscal times for individual families in Montgomery County. And, you know, we have to say thank you to all of our food service people and Essie and Barbara and Jeannie, you know, for organizing the tremendous effort on distributing meals at our schools ever since we closed. You know, but being sensitive to that many families are going to, when we return to brick and mortar environment, many families will still be suffering financially who may not have been suffering in the past. Mm-hmm. The other observation is MCPS will be in difficult fiscal situation with our budget. And so having a lunch debt that has accrued and might have to come out of operating funds for those students who do not qualify under federal programs will be, you know, it's not going to be an insignificant problem for us. So I just felt I needed to make those observations. Mm-hmm. With that, Ms. Williams, do you want to walk us through the policy?
Yes, I will do that. And in consideration of the time, I can give a broad view of the first couple of pages, which speak to the many ways in which MCPS collaborates with the community to address hunger in Montgomery County generally. And the policy sets forth the expectations for compliance with the state and primarily federal regulations for the food for the lunch program. All of that is set out in the initial pages, and we talk about some of the and the position sections. We talk about some of the programs that are in place to support childhood hunger, where we not only ensure that a meal is provided and available to students during the instructional day, but we have programs where we provide after-school care snacks and programs for at-risk supper support programs, and there are also programs in the summer during the summertime for families and students who are at risk of hunger. There is also the Universal School Meals Program that's available in a select number of our schools, and the Maryland Meals for Achievement programs that provides breakfast in certain classrooms. So there's a lot of work that MCPS does in collaboration with its partners to address school hunger, but we also must identify ways to operate our programming for providing schools in a way that maintains the fiscal integrity of the program. I'm going to address your attention, direct your attention rather to page 5 of the policy, item 9, and this is where we outline the option, the second option, the hybrid option that the team just addressed. And you'll see that this is required by federal law, that we have a policy, and it states in this policy as well as required by law that this type of policy be communicated to the parents of all of our students, and that it sets out that we must collect unpaid school cafeteria account charges so that we maintain the financial integrity and solvency of our food nutrition services. And the option is that on A, for students who qualify for food for free and reduced meal services, there shall be no threshold for the amount of unpaid meal charges the student may accumulate. For students who do not qualify for the farms services, the superintendent of schools may establish a threshold of unpaid school cafeteria account charges upon which students shall be provided an alternative reimbursable meal that is nutritionally comparable to the reimbursable meal regularly offered under the National School Meals Program. want to identify that the dollar amount for the threshold is not specified in the policy, but it gives the superintendent the right to set that threshold. The alternate reimbursable meal shall also be available for purchase by any student who wishes to purchase that meal. On page 6 of the top of page 6 of the policy is where it speaks to the opportunity of the superintendent to identify funding options for unpaid school cafeteria account charges in collaboration with community partners. And this is what you heard Mrs. Pruitt speak to with respect to the MCPS Foundation. So the desired outcomes include MCPS continuously seeking opportunities to address childhood hunger, and we will also provide student meals in compliance with the National School Meals Program in a cost-effective manner that minimizes the accumulation of unpaid school cafeteria account charges. It provides implementation strategies that include encouraging prepayment of cafeteria accounts. We utilize a prepayment system that allows parents to monitor and maintain positive balances and replenish it as necessary, to develop effective proactive outreach and broad-based communication strategies, to notify students and parents of these requirements. MCPS, very importantly, will communicate with parents and guardians respectfully, privately, and directly to discuss negative balances and determine methods of repayment. And as I previously stated, these procedures must be provided in writing to all households with students enrolled in MCPS. And I know that the team has this type of information made available on the website, and will continue to do so as this policy is passed by the board.
Are there any questions specific to the policy?
I just have one. Should I go?
Go ahead.
Okay. We had talked several times before about the unpaid, unused funds that some kids have. Like, so for example, both of my children, I never got money back from their accounts after they graduated. So I'm assuming that money is still just sitting in that, my lunch bunch, whatever that app was that I could put the funds on. Should it be somewhere in the policy that funds that are left taken back by parents after a certain amount of time automatically get distributed to the Dine with Dignity fund, so that it's clear to people. So, for example, the money, my daughter graduated 2 years ago. The money that's left in her account could be being given to the Dine with Dignity fund automatically. Like, say, if after a year of time you don't collect your money back, you get it donated.
So I would like to direct your attention on page 6 at line 151, where we talk about, and I mentioned found Mrs. Pruitt's comments in the work of the foundation, but as a community partner. But it also says others who wish to make a contribution towards student unpaid school cafeteria account charges. I caution that we may want to make the kind of so this, I think that language in the policy permits the district to take the step that you are suggesting. I would suggest that the specific detail about the rollover of the funds from unused funds be addressed in communication with families, because when they enter into that arrangement, because something may change with the type of service that we use for the prepaid accounts, or other things that may impact our ability to do that would, then it's bound in policy. So I think that there is language there. Perhaps there could be something to expand upon the language that's there, but I wouldn't recommend specifically stating that money that's not used would automatically roll over in the policy.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah, I know. Didn't mean immediately. I meant after a certain amount of time, but to have the money sitting there for 5 years and we can't use it. And then if we did use it because we're like, well, they're not coming back for it. And then all of a sudden I come back 5 years later and I'm like, hey, where's that $100 that you owe me? I just thought maybe it could be clearer.
Policy, but I think it should be, in the practices of a practice of communicating with families upon graduation or leaving MCPS, if they move out of area, do you wish to donate that money to Dine with Dignity? But I think this language in the policy is broad enough that it would stand the test of time. But no, I think it's a great idea. I think upon graduate,
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe part of the graduation packet has a little form in there. Hey, if you've got money left over, either get it or we're donating it or something like that. But
I don't think it should be in the policy.
Okay.
Did you have another question, Mrs. Mondrowski? No?
I will add one caveat to that and that for reduced category students, if they have funds left on their account at the end of the year, we must offer them a refund. So for that group, we do take that step, but that wouldn't preclude the other part of this. And the reduced students, again, if they had $2 left at the end of the year and we offered them a refund and they said, no, I'd like to donate that to Dine with Dignity, that would certainly be okay. But we'd need to have some sort of way to say the family chose this rather than the refund.
Well, hopefully you can work with the Ed Foundation to start going through old accounts and identify, like I said, no one's reached out to me about money left over. So I would think that there might be a way to look to see who's got balances that haven't been touched in a long time.
But possibly, Ms. Harrell, in the process of doing that on the reduced, as you square the accounts at the end of the year, whether it's reduced, free, reduced, or full pay, consider how we possibly could be communicating with families about the situation. Because certainly I know you were sending letters where students owed money, so, possibly where there's a balance and, senior, say, we could be communicating.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Dr. Daka, do you have any other questions? I think that when this policy goes to the full board, I'm not saying that we need to go through this whole presentation, but I think excerpts of it would be important because I know there's a great deal of interest among board members about the policy, about lunch debt, lunch shaming. And so I think it would be important as we set the stage to bring the policy to the full board that we have that conversation.
And I'm sure we can provide some of the context with perhaps, as you're saying, a little narrower on the detail for the board, but still providing that that scope of the background, as you're saying.
Right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is it okay for me to ask?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How structured does the letter have to be? Does USDA really lay down what you have to say to these families? Or can we offer them an option to pay what they can if they can't pay their whole tab? I don't know. It's a very structured program, so I don't know what's allowed.
So it is very structured. You're exactly correct about that. However, even in the letter that we used last year, the low balance letter, or the summer before last, we sent out letters that talked about the delinquent debt. And so we said, please pay what you can, if you cannot cover. So we did have softer language in that letter, which I think was appropriate for many of our families that might have been struggling with the debt, even though they weren't free or reduced, because again, the Ed Foundation covered the free and reduced. And for the first year, I actually picked up some of the other debt of our paid students who were at, on the edge of what they owed. So yes, we can soften the language, especially in the letters that we send saying you have a negative balance of $35. That wouldn't be in the account balance letter, but in the letter that we send to it for accrued debt.
Okay, anybody else? Any other questions, comments? Seeing none. Ms. Williams, do you have anything else?
No, I do not.
Okay. I'm not sure when this will be scheduled with the full board. I know there'll be an agenda setting, but anyway, I appreciate all of you sticking it out this afternoon with us. And if none of my other colleagues have any other comments or questions, we will close this meeting of the Policy Management Committee. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.